Okay, why am I looking like this? All right. Okay, so hello, hi everybody. How are you guys doing? Why is it looking like this? Uh, Abhijit, is it coming correctly? Hello, Abhijit, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You look
Yeah,
fine. I think you can load the presentation, make it full screen, and
yeah,
currently we have.
I'm trying to share the screen, and can you see my screen?
I can see your screen. Just make the presentation in full screen mode,
All
and
right.
make the present. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
now is it good? Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Hope you guys are safe and at home and having a good time. Wonderful. So I'm back again with another reading comprehension session where I'm going to make the things a lot more easy peasy for you, right? Reading comprehension as such is a pretty daunting session for a lot of people, is it not? And in particular, the general questions. General questions a lot more scarier, right? It's like because it'll compel you to read the entire passage or the largest chunk of the passage in order to understand what is the primary purpose of the passage or what is the tone of the author of the passage and so on. Is it not? Right? And if the passage itself is pretty scary, using a lot of jargons into it, using a lot of complex sentences, a subject that you hate most, right? If that's a passage, then that's completely gone, is it not? Right? Well, let me tell you guys one thing very, very clearly. Reading comprehension plays a significant role in your verbal score. Reading comprehension score is like a muzzle, right? The higher the score in reading comprehension, the higher accuracy in reading comprehension, the higher is your verbal score, right? You got to make sure that 90-95% of your reading comprehension questions are correct. That's very, very important, right? Okay, super important. So make sure that. And actually reading comprehension is not very difficult thing, because I feel this is more like an open book test, right? I mean, you have the questions there, you have the answers there, everything is there, but it's just that more often than less, that reading comprehension, they kind of trick you with the way they present the answer choices, right? Right. And there are a lot of things across the passage, so many things are happening, so it'll also kind of what do I say, give a very confusing answer choices. Hey, this is also there. Hey, this is also there. So which is the correct answer? Is it not? So I'm going to show you. Today, my focus is going to be on general questions, more importantly on questions such as primary purpose and tone questions. Okay, I'm going to show you how, without really reading and comprehending the entire passage, right, you can still answer the general questions. Okay, right? So let's see how to do that. Now, before I jump into the concept, let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. Now, let me ask you this question. You guys watch a movie, right? You guys go to watch a film, is it not, right? So when you go to watch a film, when you wanted to know what the film is going to be about, when you want to know what the protagonist is going to achieve at the end of the film or not achieve at the end of the film, what he is set to achieve essentially, right? When you wanted to know, more often than less, you want to know in the beginning, right? Hey, please tell me in the first 10-15 minutes, right? And tell me in the first 10-15 minutes what this movie is going to be about, right? I want to know what the movie is going to be about in the first 15-20 minutes. A good director will always tell you, right? This is what the film is going to be about. This is what the protagonist is set to achieve. So you have to sit back and watch whether the hero will achieve what he's set to achieve by the end of the film, or will he fail to achieve so. Okay, right? So that is what he's going to see. Now, let us try to do the questions and see how it is related to the GMAT here. Okay, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at a passage here, right? So this is a small passage, okay, and the question here is the primary purpose, right? The passage is primarily concerned with which of the following. Now let me tell you guys, as I said, like in the case of movies, even here in case of RC passages on GMAT, the primary purpose, okay, the primary purpose will be there in the first paragraph. Okay, 90 to 95% your primary purpose will be there in the first paragraph. Okay, it will be there in the first paragraph. Okay, 90 to 95% will be there in the first paragraph. Okay, 5 to 10%, though very rare, it will be in the first sentence of the second paragraph. It will not go beyond this at all. But how do I know? How do I know very exactly? How can I pinpoint where exactly is the primary purposes? Right? So basically, what you need to look for is the first transition. At the first transition is where your primary purpose is. You got to look for first transition. Okay, first transition, more often than less, you will find in the first paragraph, but sometimes you'll find that in the first sentence of the second paragraph. Okay, now I'm going to show you a few passages. Okay, and let's see how to identify the primary purpose. Okay, right, the first passage here. All right, the passage is primarily concerned with which of the following. Now let's take a look at this. This says that traditionally, the first firm to commercialize a new technology has benefited from the unique opportunity to shape product definitions, forcing followers to adapt to a standard or invest in an unproven alternative. Okay. Today, however, you see that word? It says today, however, right? However is the first transition word, right? That's where our primary purpose is going to be. Today, however, the largest payoffs may go to the company lead in developing integrated approaches, successful mass production and distribution. Well, you don't have to understand so many technicalities, but one thing that we can understand is, there was one traditional strategy, but they came up with a new strategy here, a different kind of a strategy. Is it not, right? Okay, so what is that we're talking about here? We are talking about some different or a new approach or a new business strategy, right? We are talking about developing an approach for successful mass production and answer choices and see which is talking about some new business strategy, right? So answer choice A says evaluating two competing technologies. There are no two technologies. We are not evaluating anything, right? So A is gone. Answer choice B, tracing the impact of new technology by narrating a sequence of events. We are not tracing anything, right? We are not tracing anything. It's not. We came up with something different, a different business strategy, right? So B also not. Okay. Answer choice E says reinterpreting an event from contemporary business history. We are not reinterpreting anything, right? There is no reinterpretation happening, right? There was an approach, traditional approach, and today there's a new approach. That's it. Okay. Then says answer choice D says illustrating a business strategy, probably by means of a case history. We can keep it for now, right? We are coming up with a business strategy, so we can keep it for now, right? And then answer choice D says proposing an innovative approach to the business planning. No, there is no proposal, right? There is no proposal. They're just telling about a new business strategy, right? Is it not? It's not. It basically it's a new strategy. That's it. We are not really talking. We are not proposing anything, right? It's already there. The largest payoff may go to the companies that lead in developing integrated technologies for successful mass production and distribution. So this is also gone. Hence, the answer choice that we left off is answer choice D, wherein we're talking about a new business strategy. Is it not, right? That's how it needs to be done. Okay, let's try to another question. Let's try to do another question and see how exactly we go about doing it. Okay, let's take a look at this. Another amazing question. All right, this is another passage. This is another passage. Okay, the passage is kind of truncated because, as I said, our primary purpose should be there in the first paragraph. At the most, it'll be there in the first sentence of the second paragraph. We are not going to go beyond those at all. Okay, there may be so much information and there may be so many answer choices which may tempt us to go, variety of places in the passage. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. You have to stick to this no matter what. Okay, you have to stick to this. The answer should always be there in the first paragraph, right, or first sentence of the second paragraph. What you need to look for? You need to look for the first transition word. You need to look for first transition word, right? First transition. Okay. Now, in this, again, the primary purpose of the passage is to, right? Again, it's a primary purpose question, right? Now, let's see. It says, although numbers of animals in a given region may fluctuate from year to year, the fluctuations are often temporary and over long periods trivial, right? So, although, the very opening sentence is although, right? The very opening sentence is although, correct? So, which means that basically my answer is there, right? So, what is my answer here? So, although number of animals in a given region may fluctuate from year to year, the fluctuations are often temporary, right? So, they are saying that fluctuations, sorry, my writing is very bad. I try to write better. Fluctuations are, they're very temporary, right? Fluctuations are very temporary is what we're talking about, right? That's where your primary purpose is. Now let's see the kind of against the fluctuations. Too many fluctuations are not there is what they're trying to say. So let's see which answer choices will fit to this. Okay, right? Argue against the scientists who maintain that the animal population tend to fluctuate. Yes, they're saying it won't fluctuate, but fluctuations are temporary. This could be the answer. We will keep it for now. Compare and contrast the density dependent and epidectic theories of population control. Well, there is no such thing happening here, does it not? So therefore, let us eliminate answer choice B. There is no compare and contrast, right? They just went against when you say although, right? Provide examples of some ways in which animals exercise. There are no examples. There is an example. There is no examples, right? Animals in which ways in which animals exercise a predictive restraint to control their own numbers. Where is that we're talking about, right? We are not talking about examples here, right? So see, suggests that the theories of population control consider social behavior of animals that are more open to debate than theories that do not. Oh my God, that's too much of details. Remember, answer for general questions should be relatively general. It cannot be too specific like this, right? Is it not? So they're not suggesting anything. They're just going against what they're trying to say before, right? Although number of animals in any given region may fluctuate from year to year, the fluctuations are often temporary. So again, these fluctuations things. Summarize a number of scientific theory that attempt to explain why animals population do not exceed certain. We are not summarizing anything, does it not? So he is gone. So hence you see that? See that's simple. You don't know the entire passage. You are not read the entire passage. Let me tell you, primary purpose question and tone questions are these two questions. Even if you have a last passage and you have like 2 minutes left, even these two, then these two questions should come correct. Even then, right? Okay, right. Even then, these two questions should come correct. Okay, the RC passages like that, like a movie by a good director who knows where to place what, right? Okay, in any good movie, right, your primary purpose should come in the beginning. Okay, right? Very lousy directors try to keep towards the end. That is nonsense. We don't even know why your characters are running here and there, coming going. You don't even know. So there is no primary purpose there, right? A passage on GMAT will never be like that. The passage on GMAT will tell you right in the beginning, hey, this is what is going to happen in the passage. You know what I mean? That's the focus should be. Okay, you should not be going here and there. If you go here and there, then it is super easy to get distracted with so many things in the passage. Okay, right? This is going to, particularly when it comes to GMAT, talk about very long passages, right? I keep hearing this. Oh my God, they were back-to-back long passages, and it was all about primary purpose. Come on, that's the easiest question to solve then, right? That's the easiest question to solve then. You should never go wrong in a long passage with a primary question. I'm happy. I want more long passages, right? Because they're easy to answer, particularly the general questions. Primary purpose question, absolute easy peasy thing. Okay, right, you're getting it, right? This is applicable all the times for primary purpose. Okay, right. Let's take a look at another one. Which of the following titles best summarizes the contents of the passage? Again, title. Okay, the GMAT uses different words for primary purpose. Okay, GMAT may say what is the primary purpose, of course. Okay, and it may also say what is the main idea. It may also say what is the primary objective. It may also say what is the title of the passage, what is the theme of the passage. All these words are nothing but the primary purpose only. Okay, how do you summarize the passage? Everything is nothing but the primary purpose only. Okay, and the approach will be the same, right? Which of the following titles this summarizes the contents of the passage? Now, what does it say? It says it was once believed that the brain was independent of metabolic processes occurring elsewhere in the body. Right? So it is once believed and the brain was independent. So I'm quickly going to write down what it says here. It's once believed that what it was believed that the brain was not dependent on the metabolic process. Right? In the recent studies, however, you see that, however, right? However, is a hard transition. You have to look for the hard first transition. In the recent studies, however, recent is also a time transition. Okay, in recent studies, however, now I'm going to look for opposite thing. We have discovered that the production and release in the brain neurons of neurotransmitter serotonin. Neurotransmitters are compound that neurons use to transmit signals to other cells, depend directly on the food to the body process. You see that? Now, the moment you read this, like, wait a minute, what is it trying to say? It'll compel you to read it once again. It'll compel you to, read it multiple times to understand this reading and comprehensions, which means you need to read and comprehend, right? Of course not. Right? We're not trying to do that. Okay, don't read it too many times. It doesn't make sense. If you don't come from knowledge background for you to understand this, right? So don't even try to put unnecessary effort there, right? Understand the GMAT. You need to get familiarized with the GMAT subject. You're not going to become doctor, right? Or you may not be working in a health company. That's not right. You probably become a consultant in some of the consulting companies and probably get into FMCG and a variety of companies, tech companies, etc. You may not be even get into the biological things. So we don't have to have knowledge in that. Of course, you cannot. Is it not? And there are people try to say, okay, can I start reading multiple articles, from the time that I decide to prepare for GMAT? Will I be able to understand multiple subjects? Hello? For 25, 28, 29 years of your life, you are not reading that, and now suddenly you want to read it and understand. That's not going to happen. Okay, let's be practical here. All right, along with all your work, along with GMAT preparation, you suddenly want to read the articles and get familiarized with it? No, right? We cannot. So we don't have to, right? So focus on the GMAT per se. You need to understand the GMAT. Okay, you need to understand the GMAT. That's this exam is all about. Okay, right? So let's see what it says. It was once believed that the brain was independent of metabolic process, and then it says, in recent studies, however, recent studies we have discovered that there was a discovery, right? In recent studies, there was a discovery, right? So since then there is a word, however, I'm going to look for some opposite word. In the first sentence, it says brain was independent of metabolic process, and I'm going to look for a word which is dependent, right? That's what is in the last sentence. It says that the brain neurons, blah blah, depend directly on the food that the body process. Brain depends on the food the body process. Right? Now, where is the primary purpose, right? However, recent studies have discovered. So recent studies and discovery. This is my primary purpose. Okay. Now let's take a look at, because the entire passage is going to be studies and the findings. So studies on the discovery, is it not? Now let's go to the answer choices and see which answer choices says something similar to this. Right? Which of the following titles best summarizes the contents of the passage? Answer choice A, neurotransmitters, their crucial function in cellular communication. We are not talking about crucial function or cellular communication, is it not? So therefore, let us eliminate answer choice A. Gone. Diet and survival and one relationship re-exam. Now, we are not talking about any old relationship here. There were studies and discovery, and there was no re-examination. So B is gone. Right? The blood supply in the brain, a reciprocal dependence. Now, where is I'm talking about reciprocal dependence, and where is the blood supply suddenly? We are not talking about any reciprocal dependence, right? There were studies and discovery. That's it. Okay. Amino acids and neurotransmitters, the connection between serotonin levels in niacin. There is connection here. I'm not talking about any connection. There were recent studies and discovery. The effects of the food intake on protection release of serotonin, some recent findings. You see that? We're talking about recent discovery. And they never used exactly the same word. More often than less, they kind of twist the word instead of discovery. They said findings. You understand what I'm saying? Right? So to read this entire passage, understand this entire passage, and then tell what is the primary purpose, that's not going to be easy. That's going to take a lot of time and energy. And if this passage come towards the end, you have a last passage, and you have, let's say, 2 minutes or 3 minutes left. You already press a panic button. You're like, oh my god, how can I answer this? So you tick something and move forward, and you get those 3 questions wrong, right? That should never happen, particularly with respect to primary purpose question. From now on, all the times your primary purpose question should come correct. Okay, look for the first transition. That is where your primary purpose will be. Okay, right? Look for the first transition. All right, brilliant. Let's do another question. Let's see what we got here. The author is primarily concerned with. What is the author concerned with? Well, I don't know. Let's see and understand. According to the recent theory, Archean age gold cross vein systems were formed more than 2 billion years ago from magnetic, I think that's magmatic, no, I don't know. I mean, magnetic fluids that originated from molten granite like bodies deep beneath the surface of the earth. Okay. Now, this theory is contrary to the widely held view that systems were deposited from metamorphic fluids, that is, from the fluids that formed during the dehydration of wet sedimentary rocks. The recently developed theory, see that, right? We're talking about, first of all, from the beginning, we're talking about recent theory, right? It's a time transition, the recent theory, right? The recently developed theory. Is it not? So that's what your that's what your thing is. Okay, we are talking about some recent theory, right? Recent theory, and we're talking about its practical importance. Nothing else. Keep it that simple. You see that so much of technicalities. When I'm looking at a general question answer, I'm not really trying to read and understand the technicalities, right? Technicalities can be very complicated to understand, right? Right? You see that so much of thing is there. Were formed 2 billion years ago from the magnetic fluids that originated from molten granite like bodies. Oh, I can't understand this, right? So keep it simple. We're talking about a recent theory, recently developed theory, right? Okay, now let's go to the answer choices and see which answer choice is talking about something similar to this. Okay, you'll always find this kind of thing. Do you wanted to see this kind of thing? That's when you'll show up. No, if you believe that no, I cannot answer like this is not the way, I have to read and understand only then answer, then you will never find this. Okay, if you are looking for these, they'll stand out for you, they will stand out for you. If you're trying to read and understand, then it's gone. How many times you must have come across passages that total bouncers, right? There are so many. I'm sure some of your friends or by yourself would have experienced where you have come across a passage like a total bouncer. I don't know what the hell is happening there, right? Because you're trying to go into the contents of the passage, you're trying to go inside the story, you're not trying to look at the storyline, you're not trying to look at what you need to look for. Okay, that becomes very, very, very important. Okay, so what is here? The author is primarily concerned with whatever we're talking about, some recently developed theory, right? So advocating return to an older methodology. No, we're not talking about any older methodology here. Is explaining the importance of a recent theory. Maybe I'm talking about recent theory. I'll keep it for now. Enumerating differences between two widely used methods. Well, I'm not enumerating any differences, right? I don't know if there are two widely used methods. I don't see that, right? So it's fine. Describing events leading to a discovery. No, I mean, they're not talking about any events leading to a discovery, right? There was a recent theory is what the focus is on. So D is gone. Challenging the assumption. There is no challenge, right? They're not challenging anything. And there are no assumptions as well. Challenging the assumption, obviously, the theory is where. No, there is no challenge. Where is the challenge? Is it not, right? So that is what is very, very important for you to understand. Okay, right? Very, very important. So talking about a recent theory, right? Recent theory has considerable practical importance of the recent theory. That's it. Keep it that simple. When you do, answering becomes very easy. Otherwise, things can become a lot more complicated, just like that. Right? RCs are the ones where you should target in getting everything right. Okay, and it's quite possible you can and will get a 90% accuracy if you follow the right approach, if you understand the GMAT better, not simply trying to understand the subject and randomly practice some 1,000 passages, right? Randomly read some 100, 1,000 different things. No, hello, I know the GMAT better. You want to conquer GMAT, you know the GMAT. That's very, very important. Okay, right? You need to understand your enemy better in order to conquer, in order to win the war. All right, that's what the focus should be when you're practicing. All right, let's take a look at another quick question. The passage is primarily concerned with. Okay, what is the passage is primarily concerned with? Let's see. After evidence was obtained in 1920s, the universe is expanding and became reasonable to ask. Okay, will the universe continue to expand indefinitely, or is there enough mass in it for the mutual attraction of its constituents to bring this expansion to the halt? Okay, it can be calculated that the critical density of the matter needed to break the expansion of the closed the universe is equivalent to 3 hydrogen atoms per cubic meter. Oh, I don't know what it's trying to say, right? But you see that but see, that's my first transition, right? Okay, so can you, what is that you're saying? Will the universe continue to expand indefinitely, or is there an enough mass in it for the mutual attraction to halt? It can be calculated. They are saying it can be calculated that the critical density of the matter needed to whatever it is, right? They're saying it can be calculated, but immediately they are saying the word but. Okay, so they are going to talk about this calculation of critical density of matter, that it can be done or it cannot be done. Is it not, right? But the density of observable universe luminous matter in the form of galaxies comes only to only a fraction of this. So they're saying that this calculation of this critical density may not be sufficient, is what they're going to talk about, right? Because that's what the first transition but is. Now let us see which answer choices are trying to talk about, right? Okay, so of similar thing, right? Now answer choice A is saying that defending a controversial approach. They're not defending any approach, right? There was an approach and they're saying, hey, that is not right. So A is gone. B, criticizing and accepted. Yeah, they're criticizing it, right? Because the moment you say but, you're not in complete agreement with what is said just before, right? When I say something and immediately you say but, implies you're not in a complete agreement with what I just said. Is it not? Right? So you kind of, okay, I don't know what you're talking about types, right? So, but maybe criticizing. You can keep it for now. Summarizing, no, there is no summary anyway. They're not summarizing anything, okay, and there are no findings. There is no research, so C is gone. Contrasting competing theories, but they're not contrasting anything. There is no contrast here. They didn't agree to it. That's it. So D is gone. E, describing an innovative technique. They're not describing an innovative technique because the but is trying to say, hey, this is not that great, right? So E is also gone, right? So the closest answer available is criticizing an accepted view. You see that? You need to focus on words like this. The first time it appears in the sentence. That is what will help you to eliminate the answer choices quickly. Okay? Very, 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 very important to understand. Okay? Right? So focus on it, then things can become much easier. Otherwise, you're trying to read so much of technical details and trying to make sense of it. That may or may not happen a lot of times. Right? It may happen with some people who are naturally able to hit that 770 score, but understand 770 is still a 1 percentile, right? Okay, right? Let's first hit that 700. Let's first that cross that barrier of 690, 700, and then let's talk about 770, right? If you're struggling to hit that 690, 700, what are we talking about, guys? What are we talking about, right? Let's just make sure that we hit that 690, 700 first, and then we'll talk the next thing. You need to understand. If you get these questions only wrong, where will get 770? Not gonna happen. Correct? No? You get what I'm saying? And I see this a lot of times. People try to, immediately, hey, you know what? I need a 750 and a 770 or a 780 type of a score. Hello, what is your current score? Oh, my current score is 510. Okay, so first hit a 600, go to 650, go to 700, be consistent at 700, and then let's talk about 750. You're struggling here. What happens is, in an attempt to get that 770 score, right, in a thought process that I wanted to get every question right and everything right, we actually mess up with these kind of easy peasy questions and even spoil our 690, 700. Isn't it? Know what your target school is asking for. Know what your target school is asking for. If the target school is only asking for 710, 720, why do you want to break your head for 730? I mean, why do you want to break your head for 770? You got a 730 and leave it there. Isn't it? And then focus on the other parts of your application. Have you ever noticed that from 750 to 800 is all 99 percentile? Whether you get a 750 or you get a 800, you are considered the same. Then why are you struggling? Keep it simple. Right? Keep it simple and go in a systematic, progressive approach. Don't try to do everything right in the background. Okay? So let's go step by step. Okay, understand the GMAT better, understand how and what it is precisely testing, understand how it places and positions its answer, right? Learn to identify those things and make sure that those questions are in your bucket for sure shot. That will help you to get a score of 37 and 39 in your verbal. And then we'll talk about how to hit that 42, 44. Right? If you're struggling with 31, 32, that doesn't make sense. Right? You are hovering with 640, 650, that doesn't make sense. Right? You want to hit that 700 first, you need to make sure that you go to 37, 38 in verbal. All right? And make sure that these questions come correct. All right? Great. Now let's take a look at another question here. In the current historic, what is that? Again, primary purpose question. In the current historiography, the picture of the consistent unequivocal decline in women's status with the advent of capitalism and industrialization is giving way to analysis that not only emphasize both change and continuity, but also accounts for geographical and occupational variation. Okay. The history of women's work in English farmhouse cheese making between 1800 and 1930 is a case in the point. Okay. In her influential works and the Industrial Revolution, Pinchbeck argued that the agricultural revolution of the 18th and earlier 19th century, with its attendant specialization in large scale of operation, curtailed women's participation in business of cheese production. All right. Earlier, she maintained women had concerned themselves with feeding cows, rearing calves, and even selling the cheese in local markets and fairs. Pinchbeck thought the advent of specialization means the workers work in cheese dyeing were reduced simply to processing milk, and dairymen, a special new category, raised the fed cows and sold the cheese through factors who were also men. With this narrowing, of the scope of work, Pitchbeck believed more women lost business ability, independence, and initiatives. Though, now this is the first transition. Though Pinchback portrayed pre-capitalistic, pre-industrial conditions as superior to what allowed, recent scholarship has seriously questioned the notion of golden age for women in the pre-capitalist society. You see that there was a question. It was seriously questioned, right? It was seriously questioned. Correct, no? Right? So that is where the first transition, though, that is where your primary purpose is coming. Recent scholarship has seriously questioned the notion of gold age for the woman in pre-capitalistic society. Right? So that is where your primary purpose is. You see that the first, and this is a typical example of where you have the primary purpose, the first transition in the first sentence of the second paragraph. Okay, right? First sentence of the second paragraph. That's what your focus should be, guys. All right. Now let's see answer choices say something similar to this. Answer choice A: present recently discovered evidence that support a conventional interpretation of historical period. Well, there is no evidence that supports. It's been seriously questioned, whatever that they're talking about. So A is gone. Describe how interpretations of available evidence have reinvigorated a once discredited scholarly position. We are not talking about any reinterpretations. Explain why some historians have tended to emphasize change rather than continuity in discussing a particular period. Again, we are not talking about discussing a particular period per se here, right? There is no, we're not discussing a particular period. There was, or it was seriously questioned, whatever they're talking about was seriously questioned. Explore how changes in particular occupation serve to counter the prevailing of the historical period. No, we're not doing that either. All right, examine a particular area of a historical research. Examine, kind of questioned, right? It's kind of questioned, it's kind of getting examined, right? Seriously questioned, you're trying to examine, right? You're questioning it, you're examining it. So that should be the closest answer choice available. You see that? Without trying to read and understand the whole bunch of things, the focus is on identifying the transition words. At the moment I identify transition words, that's where I'm going to slow down. I'm going to slow down and see, okay, what is happening there. So though Pinchback portrayed pre-capitalist, pre-industrialization conditions as superior to what followed, recent scholarship has seriously questioned the notion of golden age for women in pre-capitalistic society. Right? It has been questioned, it's been seriously questioned, so it has been examined, right? So that's what it is. Examine a particular area of historical research in order to exemplify general scholarly trend. Right? Makes sense? You see that? Okay, the examining, the seriously questioned. Okay, right? That's how the answer should be. Without really trying to dig into the specifics of it, without really trying to understand so many intricacies of the passage, right? We still be able to answer the primary purpose question. But in order to do so, you need to know your GMAT correctly. You need to understand the psychology of the GMAT. If you understand the psychology of the GMAT, believe me, guys, regardless of whatever topic the GMAT is going to test you, you will still be able to answer and get it right. You understand? Okay. This is one of the very tough questions. In fact, hard questions according to GMAT, of course. And then let's see another one. Most pre-1990 literature on business with the primary purpose again. Again, this is the passage is primarily concerned with what? It's again a primary purpose question. Correct, no? Let's see how to do this. Most pre-1990 literature on businesses use of information technology defined as any form of computer-based information system focused on spectacular IT successes and reflected a general optimism concerning IT's potential as a resource for creating competitive advantage. So the IT is great, but you see that? But that's my first transition. Okay, so IT was great before that, but towards the end of 1980s, some economists spoke of productivity paradox. See that? Productivity paradox. Suddenly, oh, okay, wait a minute, what's happening here, right? Despite huge IT investments, most notably in the service sectors, productivity stagnated. See that, right? Suddenly, right, there is a completely different what do you say, different understanding or different findings happen, right? Something was known before, and but oh my god, this completely different thing happened here. Is it not, right? An opposite of what is here was happened. A completely different thing has happened, which was surprised everybody because it's a paradox, right? Now let us see which answer choices say something similar to this. Okay, right? Something similar to this, right? So it was a great thing before, but hey, wait a minute. There was a paradox actually. Something different is happening, not in sync with what is said in the previous sentence. So let's see which answer choices go in sync with these guys. Answer choice A: describing a resource and indicating various methods used to study. Now, we are not describing any resource and we're not talking about various methods, and there is no study. A is gone, right? Presenting a theory and offering a opposing point of view. Presenting a theory, but there is not theory, right? If there was a use of information technology defined, there is no theory per se. We're not talking about a theory per se, right? So there is no theory there. That is gone. Uh, providing an explanation for an unexpected findings. Yeah, so the but suddenly tells that, okay, but towards the end of 1980s, some economists spoke of unproductivity paradox. Okay, why there is a paradox is what the rest of the paragraph is going to be. Something that's completely different thing, right? When then what was believed before. Maybe, could be the answer, right? We'll keep it for now. Demonstrating why a particular theory is unfounded. No, we are not talking about any unfounded thing. No, we're not talking about an unfounded thing, right? Okay, and there is, I said, there is no theory there. Okay, there is no theory there. Resolving a disagreement regarding the uses of technology. Well, they are not resolving anything, right? And there is no disagreement. It's a different, suddenly a different thing has come up towards the end of 1980s. Suddenly different thing has happened towards the end of 1980s, right? So therefore, he is also gone. Correct now? The answer choice that is left out is answer choice C, right? Providing an explanation for unexpected finding. This was something which was not expected, right? Despite huge investments, most notably in service sectors, productivity stagnated. Is it not, right? That is probably not expected. It's a potential as a resource for competing competitive advantage. You're talking about something great, and suddenly there's a stagnation. That's something which we didn't expect. That will stagnate. Is it not, right? So therefore, C is the answer. Okay, focus on your first transition. First transition, first transition, first transition. That is everything for you. Okay, great. Let us do one more question here. The primary purpose of this passage is to, okay, let's see what is the primary purpose here. It says, in 2 decades between 1910 and 1960, more than 10% of black population in the United States left the South. Okay, where the preponderance of black population had been located and migrated northern states with the largest number of moving. It is claimed between 1916 and 1918, right? So what it's trying to say, between 1910 and 1930, a movement happened. A lot of black people moved from south to north, right? And this particular movement was maximum in between 1916 and 1918. It has been frequently assumed, but not proved, the majority of the migrants in what has come as Great Migration came from rural areas who were motivated by two concurrent factors. Okay, so this particular movement, this particular particular migration is called as Great Migration, and there was an assumption about this Great Migration. Okay, whenever there's an assumption, there should be a conclusion, right? So it says the two concurrent factors: the collapse of cotton industry following the Boville infestation, which began in 1969, increased demand in North for labor following the cessation of European migration caused by the outbreak of First World War in 1914. The assumption led to conclusion. See that the assumption will always lead to a conclusion. The migrants' subsequent lack of economic mobility in North is tied to rural background, a background that implies unfamiliarity with urban living and lack of industrial skills. So basically, they're trying to draw a conclusion about this Great Migration. Okay, so far there is no transition. So far there is no transition, right? Okay, now comes the second paragraph. This is the whole first paragraph. Now comes the second paragraph. And the second paragraph, it starts with but the question. You see that again? But the question. The moment we see but, remember I told you we are not agreeing with whatever has been said in the previous paragraph, the sentence, right? But means they did not agree with this conclusion, right? They did not agree with this. In fact, they questioned the conclusion. The question is, right? They kind of questioned the conclusion. Well, that is where my primary purpose is going to be, right? At the first transition, right? They kind of questioned whatever the conclusion has been drawn in the previous sentence. Is it not? Now let's see which answer choices say something similar to this. Answer choice A, support an alternative to an accepted methodology. Well, I mean, we're not giving any alternative, right? We kind of questioned it. We kind of questioned it. So A, we are not supporting anything. And present evidence that resolves contradiction. Well, there is no contradiction per se. They kind of questioned the conclusion, right? They questioned it. And there is no evidence also anywhere. See, introduce a recently discovered source of information. We're not talking about any source of information here, so that's also gone. Answer choice D, challenge. Yes, challenged. You challenged it. You questioned it. It's like, hey, what are you talking about? It looks like you have some different kind of a conclusion. I don't agree with that, right? Kind of challenged. So we can kind of keep it. Argue that discarded theory deserves new attention. There is no discarded theory anywhere, right? The E is gone. So D is the answer. You see that? Very, very, very important. Okay, right? Very important to understand. Okay, there are words such as argue in the passage. There are words such as source of information in the passage, right? What happens is when you try to read the whole passage and understand the whole passage, you tend to think, oh, okay, this is also there. Maybe this should also be a primary purpose. Oh, okay, this is also there. This should be the primary purpose. So we kind of get confused, right? Why can't this be the answer? Why can't this be the answer? We often get confused, right? So that is what I'm saying. Stick to the first transition. Okay, stick to the position of the first transition. Wherever the first transition is, that is where your primary purpose begins. Okay, wherever the first transition is, that's where the main story begins. Okay, that is where your main story begins. Do not go away from that, guys. Believe me, particularly for these long passages where it's like completely Greek and Latin and it's so difficult to comprehend and understand, you just have to chase the first transition. This is easy to identify, right? We know transition words, but although however, right, very commonly use the transition words. So these are transition, they use the time transition like recently and things like that, right? Okay, all right, identify them, then boom, you get your primary purpose. Okay, all right, is that clear? All right, now the next thing that I'm going to show you is about tone questions, right? Tone questions, tone, attitude, or how does author a passage regard something with the tone questions, right? So how do you approach the tone questions? Where the answer for tone will be there in the passage, right? You know, there are multiple answers I get. Hey, it can be there towards the end of the passage. It'll be there in the beginning of the passage. You have to read the entire passage to understand, so on and so forth. But let me tell you a secret here. You want to know the secret? Okay, because for this you need to know the GMAT. That's what I'm saying. The more you understand your enemy, the easier it becomes to conquer the enemy. Okay, right? So understand the enemy better, understand the enemy's psychology. When you do and map it to your psychology, GMAT becomes a breeze. Reading comprehension becomes the next level breeze. Reading comprehension is one section where you should try to get maximum right. Okay, right? You should try to get maximum right. You should get, as I said, 90-95% accuracy is quite possible in reading comprehension. But you need to take a right path, a right approach, right direction, not simply try to be, hey, you know what, I can read and understand everything. Be practical. I know that you have an ability to read and comprehend a lot of things, but GMAT is a different exam, and you need to understand GMAT from the GMAT point of view. Okay, right? You need to really realize these are not tricks. I'm not saying these are tricks or shortcuts. Absolutely not. There is no shortcut for any success. Let me be honest with you here. Okay, if you are thinking this as a shortcut, it is not a shortcut. It is not the trick. Okay, it is not that kind of a trick. It is about knowing your enemy better. The moment I know my enemy better, I know exactly what to do. You understand? Right? A right warrior always not just focuses on their own strengths and weaknesses, but they also focus on enemy strengths and weaknesses, so that he will prepare a plan when there's a battle, to how to conquer the enemy based on the enemy's weaknesses and of course the strengths, right? But if you don't know the enemy at all, and if you directly go to the war, an enemy will attack you from any point and you don't even know. You may be a great warrior, but if you don't know the enemy, then you may lose the battle, right? So you have to be an amazing warrior here, right? You need to conquer the GMAT no matter what, right? The only way to conquer the GMAT is to know more about the GMAT, understand the GMAT from the GMAT point of view. Go into the mind of the GMAT, get under the nerve of the GMAT, think the way GMAT thinks. The moment you do that, you can answer any questions just like that. You understand what I'm saying? It is very, very important. Okay, right? So I'm going to talk about the tone questions here. Okay, I'm going to talk about the tone question. This is a tone question for this passage, and for this question, I have not put the passage at all. Why? Because to answer the tone questions, you don't even have to know the passage. Without even knowing the passage, without even knowing the passage, without even reading the passage, you can still answer it and get it right. How and why? First, let's understand why. Now, this is an international exam, which means people coming from different countries, different races, different ethnicities, different likes and dislikes take this exam, right? So, what is best for you may not be best for someone else. What do you think is the best may not be best for someone else. And what is worst for someone else may not be worst for you, right? Right, what you think is the best may not be best for someone else. Others may not be thinking it is best, or if others are thinking particular thing is the worst, for you it may not be the worst, is it not, right? So which mean to say that the author here on the GMAT cannot take extreme positive tone, right? Extreme positive tone, and the author cannot take extreme negative tone, right? Author cannot take an extreme positive tone, author cannot take an extreme negative tone, right? In fact, why do you want to hear anything negative about something that you like? You don't want to hear anything. Hey, you're in line, fine, you keep quiet, but don't say anything negative. Is it not, right? The author of the passages cannot use an extreme tone, right? The passages cannot have a negative tone, right? Cannot be negative. So therefore, how my answer choice should be? Well, my answer choice, the correct answer choice should be mild positive, right? The answer choice should be mild positive. This is also okay types. Mild positive. Okay, your answer choice should be mild positive. And trust me on this. Okay, your focus is only the answer choices. Eliminate any answer choice that is extreme positive, extreme negative, and negative. Stick to mild positive, and this works in 95% of the cases. Why I say 95%? There are going to be one odd instance, very rare, very rare, one very odd instance where the opening of the passage itself is negative, right? They're only talking negative, negative, negative. That's the only way they can be negative. Otherwise, in 95% of the cases, this is going to be applicable. Your answer choice should be mild positive. Okay, focus on mild positive answer choices. Eliminate anything that is extreme positive, eliminate anything that is extreme negative. Okay, and eliminate anything that is negative as such. Is it not? So now let's take a look at this. It says the challenge posed to Wayne-Edwards theory by several studies is regarded by author with, right? Regarded with is a tone question, right? Now let's go to the answer choice. It says complete indifference. Complete indifference, kind of negative. Qualified acceptance, okay, okay types. Skeptical amusement. Skeptical means what? Doubtful, is it not? And doubtful is negative. Perplexed astonishment. What is perplexed? Perplexed is again confusion, right? That's again negative. Agitated dismay. This is obviously for sure negative. So what should be my answer? My answer choice should be qualified acceptance, right? See, we don't know Wayne Edwards, we don't know his theory. Without knowing those things, we can still arrive at the right answer by focusing on the answer choices. As I said, this applies 95% of the times on your tone questions. Okay, right? So focus on the answer choices for the tone question. If this is the last question you get and there is 1 minute left, you should still attempt this question and get it right. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, so that's how the thing should be. Okay. Right, very very important, and this works. I said it works. You can go back home and apply a lot of passages. You will be surprised to see this is going to work. Okay, right? And now sometimes you will have some issues. What kind of issues? Well, okay, there are more than one answer choices that looks kind of a mild positive. So which one is the correct answer? How do I decide? Right, if there is a conflict between the answer choices, what should I do? Remember, your answer should still be mild positive. Like for example, this question, the next question that I put here, if you see here, it says the author of the passage would be most likely to describe the explanation provided by human capital theory of high concentration of women in certain occupations 17th century as describe as, again a tone question, right? Now let's go to the answer choice. Answer choice A says well founded, that is extreme positive, though incomplete, kind of negative. Okay, we'll keep this for now, right? Answer choice B, difficult to articulate. This is definitely negative. B is gone. Plausible but poorly substantiated. Okay, I'll keep this for now. Plausible is kind of positive, though poorly substantiated is negative. We'll keep this for now. Seriously flawed. This is definitely negative. Out. Right? Contrary to reasonable expectation. This is definitely negative. Okay, now let's take a look at this. A says well founded though incomplete. This is extreme positive with a negative. So it brings down, because it is added with negative, it brings down the extremism and make this guy a mild positive. Right? Whereas answer choice C, plausible is a small positive, it's kind of a mild positive by itself. And then you're adding another negative to it. So that is making mild negative, is it not? Right? Plausible itself is a mild positive, and you're adding another negative to it, making the answer choice mild negative. So let's knock out mild negative and stick with mild positive. Right? So this is how it is going to be. Right? So as I said, it works 95% of the time. That I'm looking at 95% accuracy. I'm not looking at 100%. There's nothing called 100%. You know that your GMAT score, even if you get 80, 800, you'll still 99 percentile. It is not 100, obviously, right? Is it not? Right? Like that. Okay. So don't look at 100%. I'm talking about 95%. 95% accuracy you hit on the GMAT, you will hit a great score. You will easily get a score of 740, 750. Right? And that's fantastic. A lot of top business schools look at this kind of score. Right? You know, you can apply to any Ivy League colleges and then focus on the profile. GMAT alone is not everything. GMAT is one component of it. Of course, a high GMAT score is important, but remember this: a high GMAT score may not guarantee you an admission, but a low GMAT score will put you out. Okay, right? Focus on what your college is looking at. Their college is pretty happy with a 660. then don't write, you don't want to break your head, right? Isn't that what I'm saying, right? Focus on building your profile, stand out through your profile. GMAT is only one component. 20% of the weightage goes to GMAT. I mean, there are so many MBA sessions that are going on right now. So, you get an opportunity to talk to these MBA admissions committee people and ask them this question: what is the weightage for GMAT in the overall application process? Will it make a difference if I get a 750, a 740, and if I get a 770? How much difference it is make? Speak to the admissions committees. You'll be surprised to know the results. You'll surprised to know the answers, right? GMAT is one component. Your other application has to be very, very good. There are so many people that I know with a score of 770, 780 got rejects from Harvard, Wharton, Kellogg's, Stanford. And I have students, who got like 730, 740, gone to Stanford, Kellogg's, Yale, Columbia, Wharton, right? Okay, so remember that the other application material also matters. So you need to equally focus both on GMAT and other application materials as well. Your profile, when I say other application material, if you don't have a profile, what you'll write in your essays, how do you differentiate yourself? The score alone will not differentiate, guys. Trust me on this. I've seen so many people with 760, 770 score. People won't get admitted into the top 10, 15 business schools in the world. Okay, right? It is very important that you also build a profile. Okay, so concentrate on both, balance out. Okay, try to hit a score of 740, 750. Follow the right approach, understand the GMAT, know more about the GMAT, understand the psychology of the GMAT. Then, when you understand the psychology, conquering it will become a lot more easier than what otherwise. Okay, right? Perfect. So please feel free to send me the questions. I'll write down my email ID here. You can always write questions to me, kalyan.chamarthi@scoreleap.in. All right, write your questions. I'll try to answer those questions as much as possible. Right, there are a lot of videos that we have put up online for your viewing and understanding. A lot of videos are free videos. You feel free to visit our website, go through those videos and see what and how best you can learn from the things, right? Otherwise, so that's that for today, right? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. um, Once again, I didn't see any of your questions, so I'm just going to quickly see if there's any questions that you have put and see if I can answer some of them. Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. So as I said, please feel free to drop the email if you have any further questions or queries, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you. Okay, perfect. Otherwise, thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful time, and I will speak to you guys soon with another session very, very soon. Okay, otherwise, this month you have a lot of MBA Spotlight events. Please make sure that you register and attend those events. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.